Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Quality Talks podcast. You may have noticed, unfortunately, I'm here on my own today. Chris can't make it for this episode, so yeah, you're stuck with me, unfortunately. But hopefully, we can still make this a good episode. But there is a really big Geordie-shaped hole in my heart right now, not having Chris around. So, you know what? Let's see how this goes. Hopefully, it will still be good. But there will be also a slight change to the original episode agenda that we put out. So we're going to try something that's slightly different. And again, let's see how it goes. Who knows? You might enjoy it. You might not. You might be begging for Chris to come back. I know I will be. So anyway, let's get on to it. Welcome. So as I mentioned, this is episode 3. Slight change to the titling of episode 3. It's actually going to be titled "Testing Ourselves." Ooh, so what could that mean? Well, as we go on, we'll get into it. But before any of that, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that has watched the first 2 episodes, commented on the posts that we're putting out on LinkedIn. We've got over 300 followers on the LinkedIn page now, which is incredible. We've got almost 100 subscribers on YouTube. I say almost. I'd love to get it there very, very quickly, very, very soon. Just hit that little milestone. But we've also got a lot of followers on the other media channels as well: Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. Sorry. So yeah, we can't thank everybody enough. And we hope that you're enjoying the content. We hope you continue to enjoy the content if you are. But if you're not, or if you've got any feedback or advice, then obviously please share it, because as we mentioned before, we're doing this podcast for all of you. Yes, we enjoy talking, absolutely, but we could just be doing that generally, right? So we are doing this podcast for all of you out there. So yeah, just anything that you want to hear about, any feedback you have, then just let us know, and we'll try and factor it into future episodes. We've obviously said we're going to have some guests on. That will be happening. But as with all these things, we want to try and get things as crisp as possible before we start inviting people on and having technical issues or mishaps. We don't want to waste people's time too much. So yeah, but that will be happening. And for the next episode, Chris will be joining us again, and we'll be back on the agenda of the original episode, which was going to be testing 213. And I know people have contributed to that on LinkedIn. Perfect, amazing. Thank you for your answers to the questions. There's now going to be more time for people to get involved if you choose to. But so far, we've had some really great answers, and yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun when we come to recording that episode and getting into those conversations. And we'll be giving away some prizes as well, as mentioned before. So let's get into this then. Why have I chosen to call this episode "Testing Ourselves"? Well, me doing this on my own without Chris is quite a big deal in itself. I'm really testing myself trying to do this. Okay, I don't know whether it's going to work. I don't even know if you're going to enjoy the content. But hopefully, if you don't, then you'll tell me, and hopefully, if you do, you'll tell me. But yeah, got to give it a go, right? We want to make sure that we're dropping an episode every month. We want to stick to that. That promise is out there, so we don't want to miss that, right? So I had a little think today when I found out Chris couldn't make it, and thought about how in our everyday lives we use a lot of the same skills and have a lot of the same traits that we do on a day-to-day basis when we're in our jobs, as software testers, quality engineers, quality coaches, general leadership roles, whatever they may be. And it got me thinking about, how can we and how do we apply those same skills into our everyday lives, but also flipping it on its head a little bit and saying, how do we take some of those skills that we use in our everyday lives and apply them back into our day jobs? So So it got me thinking a little bit. And that's what I wanted to explore a little bit. How do we push ourselves out of our comfort zones? How do we test ourselves to try new things and do new things and continuously improve? So we'll explore that a little bit as we go through, and I'll sort of share some examples from my life, and hopefully, some of those things may hit home with people. But it'd be great to kind of hear your feedback after this, to sort of examples of where maybe you've done similar things, and or you utilize your skill sets within your day job, so to speak, in your everyday life, and vice versa. Okay, cool. So before we get into that, though, obviously we like to kind of just generally catch up, me and Chris, on what's been happening since the last time we recorded. As I said before, there's a big Geordie shaped hole in my heart right now. I don't have Chris to talk to, but I'm going to talk to you guys and just share what's been happening. The big thing this week, really, actually, I wanted to talk about was I had the opportunity to attend the National Software Testing Conference in London, and not only attend, but I was also very fortunate enough to give the opening keynote on day one, and then on day two, work alongside a good friend, David Norshaw, to deliver an adaptable leadership and quality coaching workshop that we've been trying to pull together for a little while. And we finally got the opportunity to deliver that workshop, and that workshop was actually off the back of a talk we gave last year at the National Software Testing Conference, but also we gave the same talk at Test Bash last year as well, and it really gave us some great opportunity to turn it into a workshop, and this was the first time we actually did that. So the conference itself was actually really good. I think there was a lot of good talks in there. There was some good workshops in there. As always with dual track conferences, you get a little bit of FOMO, that whole thing of like, I want to see that talk, but I also want to go to that workshop. Where do I go? And also you do get a bit overwhelmed just from a social perspective, because there's so much going on. People were chatting, you want to network a little bit, but they also had an area where you could break out and just chill, which was quite nice. So I think it was a well organized conference, and kudos to 31 Media that put it on as well, because it was originally supposed to be in May. There was train strikes, they had to reschedule, so obviously that always has an impact on people being available to attend, but also speakers. And I just want to say a massive congratulations to all the speakers and everybody that held and hosted workshops. Everybody did an amazing job. It's never easy. It is never easy, and I think just to step on those stages, just to be in front of people running workshops, is success in itself. So I think everybody deserves, some congratulations, a pat on the back. As you can imagine, there was a lot of talk around AI in the conference, but it's always interesting to see how people are utilizing AI, or just generally what their thoughts are, and where we're going to move forward with AI and all the different types. And obviously, based on the fact of what happened last week, there was a lot of mention of CrowdStrike. I'm not even going to go near CrowdStrike. I have my own sort of views on that. All I'll say is that my triggers were flying around when that got announced on the other day, and there was a lot going on LinkedIn and stuff like that, which was triggering me quite a bit in it. Yeah, but I'm not going to go any further. So why is what? Just coming back to obviously the title of this episode, and looking at how we can test ourselves as individuals. That there's an example of that with the conference itself, and obviously me giving that opening keynote. For those that know me, or anybody that's read my blogs or anything like that, or listened to one of these other, the other episodes that we've released, I do suffer with quite bad anxiety, and public speaking has been a massive help for me in sort of harnessing that and just trying to ensure that, you know, I've got a bit of an outlet and a way to share my experience and share my thoughts and stuff like that. But it's as confident as I may come across on stage, it's never easy for me. I have to really get into a mental place, a positive mental place to do it. And the thing for me is I always want it to be fun as well. So again, I kind of put a little bit of pressure on myself to, you know, make it fun for people, make it enjoyable, make it engaging, etc. I don't just want to get up there and just speak. So, you know, there is always that anxiety for me. And every time I step on stage, there is a different level of, you know, stretching myself that I might go to. This week, I was up on stage on my own, which I haven't been for the last few talks I've given. So those that have sort of seen me up on stage recently, over recent years, you'll see that I've always partnered with people. It might be me or Vern. It might be me or Chris, even me and David, or, you know, there's other people as well that have been involved over the last few years. And often that's because of two reasons. One is because I always want to share that opportunity of being able to get up on stage. And often people in their first experiences are nervous and anxious themselves. So it's great to partner, but also it gives me real sort of, it takes some of that pressure off of me as an individual when you're not up there on your own. So me stepping on stage this week on my own was a little bit of a bigger deal for me again. And, you know, I felt the audience were amazing. You know, there was a lot of interaction. And, you know, it's one of those things that you go up there, you're anxious. As you settle into it, you feel a bit better. The audience participates. There's smiles on people's faces. They're acknowledging what you're saying. And by the time it's over, you want to do it again. And that's exactly how it felt. Personally, I love being on stage for that reason. I love seeing people's faces. I love talking to people, which is quite ironic, really, because I'm just staring at a camera right now, and, you know, I don't actually see anybody. But I like to be able to share my thoughts, and, you know, it's not about what I'm saying is right or wrong. I'm just sharing my experience, and hopefully that experience will land and bring value to one person in that audience. If it's one person, I'm happy. If it's more, amazing. But again, it really does sort of push me outside my comfort zone every time. And on day 2, me and David gave that workshop. Now, delivering a workshop is completely different to standing on stage and delivering a talk. Again, people are there to learn something, and obviously everybody learns differently. So trying to build out a workshop that becomes valuable to everybody in that room is quite difficult and quite daunting. But again, I'm about fun, right? I always want to make things fun. I always want to have smiles on people's faces. I don't want things to be too serious. The world's too serious for my liking, and that's unfortunately that's just not me, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. So again, there was that level of pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone for me and David, and going into that room, we thought, how many people will we get in this room? Will it be 3? Will it be 10? We didn't know what we were preparing for. In the end, the room was so full, we had to turn people away. We were completely overwhelmed with how many people turned up for the workshop. But then that added even more pressure. That pushed us even more outside our comfort zone, because we'd never delivered this workshop before to a group of people. We'd done a little bit of rehearsing here and there, but we were really using it as a learning experience. So we were really testing our own ability to adapt in the moment. And the big thing for us was being upfront with people to start with, in terms of, letting people know it was the first time we'd run the workshop. We really wanted people to enjoy it, but at the same time, we valued their feedback and wanted to know, how can we improve it, and what what parts did people find most valuable, what parts maybe people didn't find valuable, and actually did it even add value at all? Because we thought it might be a good idea, we thought it could add a lot of value, but we weren't sure. As we progressed through it, again, there was a lot of participation from people, and we did it deliberately in that way. We split people into groups, and all of it was about getting feedback and learning, and really just sort of trying new things, trying to see how people would react in different situations within that workshop, and what kind of landed best with groups of people. And amazingly, we even finished on time. We didn't think we were going to finish on time either, and we did just. So we had to condense what could potentially be a half-day workshop into 50 minutes, believe it or not. So there's a lot more we can build on there. But again, we were pushing ourselves to deliver a product to those people in that workshop who are a customer at that time, and we really wanted it to be a quality product. And that first instance, we thought, if we keep trying to build this out and postponing, by the time we get around to doing it, the moment may have passed. So we wanted to get it out there. We wanted to try it. Yes, could it be better? It absolutely can be. But we wanted to try it and experience it to start with, and learn from it. And that's often like what we do with software, right? Ideally, we don't want to take too long to get a product out there into our customers' hands, because the longer we take, we may miss that window of opportunity, and also we're not getting the feedback that ideally we would like to improve constantly, and that continuous improvement. So that's a little example there in terms of how I and me and David have kind of this week alone have utilize some of the thinking that we do on a day-to-day basis in our jobs to kind of come away and say, how can we apply this to something else? And it's interesting when you talk about comfort zones, and everybody's comfort zone is slightly different, and then you've got a stretch zone, and then you've got what you may class as a danger zone. And there's this little exercise that I did at Test Bash last year. And if you were there, you may have participated in it, and I can share more details around it anyway. But essentially, there's it's a bit of paper with a almost like a target on there, which is comfort zone, stretch zone, and danger zone. And by just asking some questions of the group, and asking them to put their name in which zone, there's a lot you can learn from that. And ideally you don't want to be in your danger zone too long, because if you are, that can cause stress, that can set you back. But you don't not want to be pushing those limits at the same time. So when you somebody like myself, and so many people out there that suffer with anxiety of different degrees, it's really trying to understand how you can do that in a way that isn't going to cause you that stress. And sometimes you just have to try it and see. And as I say, that's very much what me and David were doing this week, was let's test it. We've designed it, we've built it out. We've built out the sort of the framework around what we want to do. We've got some good material that we can slot into each part of the workshop. And then let's try it out with an actual customer or a group of customers, and that's really what we did, and it's very much what we do on a day-to-day basis with software. How did it go? Well, it actually went really well, to be fair. We know that we could have delivered it better. We know that it could be a much more in-depth workshop as well. But what it did give us insight to was actually there's different versions of that workshop that we can run based on the time that we have, the audience that we're looking to deliver it to. So it's not just one product, then it's multiple products for multiple customers. And that's amazing feeling when you kind of start learning and getting that feedback in the room. And, obviously people coming up afterwards and telling you that they enjoyed it. And, even like on LinkedIn, when people are sort of putting posts up and saying that, what they took away from that workshop, even if it's one thing, it makes it worthwhile. So I think, from my perspective, it just coming into this episode today, you know, and I'm not going to lie, right? I'm winging this right now. I've got no script, no nothing. I've got a little bit of a sort of a plan of what I'm talking about, but again, you know, didn't have too much time to prepare, so you know, it's really pushing me right now outside of that comfort zone, and I'm really testing myself and seeing how things go. And you are the customer. Everybody at the end of this camera, everybody at the end of the earphones or speaker that you're listening to this on, you are the customer, and I want to know how you feel about, you know, this episode, you know, once it airs, and all future episodes and past episodes as well. So I just want to kind of go into this in a little bit more detail, really, because a few years ago, well, for many years, I've been into my fitness, and we've got the Olympics going on now as well, which is really cool. And I've always been somebody that has worked out in the gym, etc., etc. A few years ago, I got to the point where I'm like, why am I working out every day? Why am I going to the gym every day? What am I actually doing it for? And at that time, it was really, for me, right, it was like, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. Great. You know, I want to look good, whatever. I want to be fit, you know, etc., etc. But it wasn't really challenging me. It wasn't really pushing me outside my comfort zone. So back in, I think it was 2016, around 2016 time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try and compete in bodybuilding competitions. And there's two reasons for that. One was it gave me more impetus and gave me more incentive and purpose to be doing those things on a day-to-day basis. You know, to be going to the gym, it gave me that motivation, it gave me that purpose. But also, I just wanted to challenge myself a bit and push myself outside that comfort zone. Now, I didn't really know, you know, outside of, you know, Instagram or, you know, YouTube or, you know, seeing bodybuilding contests on the TV or whatever, what really was involved in doing something at that level. So obviously I needed to kind of find that out a bit more. I needed to do a bit more research and understand what was the world I was stepping into. And obviously there's a lot around, you know, performance enhancing drugs and this, that, and the other. Now that was one thing that I knew that I did not want to get into one way or another. I wanted to do everything naturally. And I'm pleased to say it always has been. But, and that's no slight on anybody that doesn't do that, because as you progress in that, in that type of sport, that it comes to a point where if you want to continue to progress, you have to join the others and do that, and that's absolutely fine. But from my own personal perspective, I didn't want to go down that road. So I had to start doing a lot of research. I had to start understanding more what I was getting myself into. But what I didn't really understand is how closely it related to what I did on a day-to-day basis in, you know, with from a quality perspective, you know, delivering products, software testing, this, that, and the other. Now you might be sitting there thinking, oh, here we go. It's one of those, another sort of analogies that get posted out on LinkedIn when, you know, well, England scored a penalty and blah, blah, blah. And this, no, it's not about that at all. I hope it's not anyway. But it's only more recently that I've really kind of started to look at how closely related it was, and that experience was, because there's levels to, you know, to that, and it's the same with any sport, or, you know, in any profession of that nature. It's not just about you're not just going in the gym and lifting some weights. You know, that's not going to give you the quality product at the end that is going to enable you to, you know, impress the customer, which ultimately is the judges on when you're on stage. That's only a very small part of it. But one of the things that I learned over that time was, initially I was doing everything out of my garage. I was training out of my garage. I was trying to figure out my own diet. I was basically everything I did was in silos, right? And I remember I entered my first competition and I didn't do very well. I thought I looked good. I thought I had a real opportunity, and I got there and I looked at the other people and I went, I'm so far off the mark here. It's unbelievable. But what it did is it gave me experience, and it gave me a way of getting feedback. Now, what I then learned was that, I didn't have all the right equipment. In my garage, I couldn't get all the best sort of equipment to help me, train how I needed to train. I didn't really understand my dieting side of things, and especially when I wanted to put weight on, and then when I wanted to lose weight and lose body fat, and so on and so on. So I joined a local gym, and by doing that, it surrounded me by other people with similar interests, and it really kind of helped me bounce ideas around and look at things differently. There were some people there that competed, and there was other people that didn't. They just did it for their own fitness benefits. But it just put me in an environment where everybody had a similar type of purpose, which was really important. And obviously coming into this sort of situation, the big thing for me was, how do I get feedback? And how do I test to see whether this is going to work for me or not? Now, somebody can turn around to you and go, oh yeah, you need to do this and you need to do that and this. But guess what? All our bodies are different, right? Our bodies are unique. How they respond to certain things are unique. So I would have to try something and see how it worked. And then if it didn't really work, I'd have to try something different. There were multiple different ways I could get to an outcome, and build the physique or the product that I was trying to aim for. But again, that takes time, that takes experimentation. And again, you look at what we do in our day-to-day jobs. We'll build something, we might put it out there, we'll get some feedback, we'll iterate on it, we'll improve it, so on and so on. The testing that we do kind of highlights what's good and what's not so good, what's working and what's not working. And it's very similar to being in that world of fitness and bodybuilding, where you can't just look at what another company is doing. You can't just look at what another competitor's doing, because their body is different. How they respond to things will be different. They may be younger than you. I mean, I was in my mid 30s. Well, actually, probably more later 30s. I won't talk too much about that. But again, all these things play into it. I had to think about the training that I was doing. I had to think about the frequency that I was doing it. I had to think about the tools that I was using, the equipment. Some of it was, free weight. Some of it was machines. Some of it was, some people would use electrodes to help stimulate their muscle. And again, it's very similar to what we do on a day-to-day basis, right? In terms of the different types of testing we do, the different tools that we use, looking at our feedback loops. Where do we get our feedback from? Now, I was getting feedback from people in the gym. There were some personal trainers in there. I'd speak to them and ask, how, was I doing something right or whatever. But there was so many pieces to that component that it was always hard to keep track of, and then you went through a stage of wanting to add weight, and then you wanted to lose weight to get into a condition to get on stage. So then everything changed again, right? So the outcome that was trying to be achieved changed. So the tools then changed, or, the diet changed, and everything that we put into it changed. Now, sometimes I would, pair up and work out with somebody. Other times I wouldn't. I'd just do it on my own because my agenda was different. What I was trying to achieve was different to somebody else's. And again, if you look at what we do on a day-to-day basis, we talk about pair coding and pair testing. It's a great technique to use, but it doesn't always suit the situation. So we shouldn't force things on people. We should look at what is the best fit for the team or the outcome that we're trying to achieve. And we get into this whole conversation about, everything needs to be automated and this, but does it? Does it really? What is the best combination of things that we can do to deliver the best product? And that's very much what, my thinking was and my approach was around bodybuilding, that, all these different pieces to that puzzle were there. And then you had to adapt to the situation. So coming into what was known as, into the cutting phase. So if you go like your prep for a competition, that prep could last you 13 weeks. And you couldn't just like flick the diet and, change the training. It had to be a gradual thing that you would do. And your body needed to adapt, and you had to kind of look and get the feedback to say, is my body responding the way I expect it to? Bearing in mind, your body is the product that you're trying to build. Okay, but you're changing that product, you're adapting that product to fit a different purpose and an outcome. So having multiple ways to get feedback through that was really important, but at all times you look at it in a way that I was testing how my body responded. Yeah, I was testing how this equipment would help deliver or ultimately build the type of physique or product that I'm looking to build. Does this piece of equipment work better than this piece of equipment? Yes. Oh, it does. Why is that then? And in diet, I was testing different foods. I was cutting out certain things, and and introducing new things, all to try and deliver the product. But one of the biggest things I was testing was my mental capacity, and the psychological side, and pushing myself out of that comfort zone, really trying to do. Did I ever think I was going to win anything? Probably not, but I wanted to give it the best shot I could, and if I did win, it would be an amazing achievement. But I wanted to be able to get to the point where I could get up on stage and I was proud of what I was presenting to the customer, who was the judge or the judges. But the different sort of psychology that goes into that, in terms of having that constant growth mindset of trying new things, failing, and bearing in mind that it's you've only got 13 weeks to get into shape, and as that gradually goes, you've got less and less time to adapt. And again, when we deliver software, sometimes we're hit with these deadlines that we have to kind of tweak things and adapt to deliver them. But to do that, it was hard. It was very, very hard. And I don't ever want to see chicken and broccoli ever again in my life. If I'm honest, it just doesn't appeal to me. And if people put broccoli on my plate now, I kind of have that child look as to say, do I really need to eat that? So it can have not so good impacts on you. But I think it's where I'm going with this is how I push myself outside that comfort zone is something that helped me grow as a person, helped me grow as an individual, helped me understand what my limitation, or what I thought my limitations were, but then actually what my limitations were. And how I could adapt as a person, to different things. And I'd get people come up to me in the gym and ask me, what was my training routine? What diet was I on? Because they wanted to copy it. And it was like, there's no point in any person copying what I was doing, because I was tailoring it to me and the product that I was building. Okay. And again, when you look at our industry, we often look at how others are doing it. And that's not a bad thing, right? You can get a lot of insight from what other companies are doing, what other people are doing, and you can try it, but it doesn't mean it's going to work. There's a lot of ingredients that go into something working for an individual or a organization or a product that you're building versus a product that another company's building. Might be similar products, but they might be for a slightly different customer base, right? So even in fintech, you've got different types of customers. In retail, you've got different types of customers. So it doesn't mean that every customer is the same for every retailer or every fintech company, financial provider. So again, you've really got to understand your audience, who you're aiming at, and what that end product needs to be. And that was one thing that's always difficult, is you don't know the judges, you don't know what they're really going to be looking at on any given day. But they will give you feedback, they will share, and and sort of talk to you about where they think you can improve as an individual and stuff like that. And then you take that and you feed it back into the start of the process again, and very much like we do with software. And I think there's so many things that kind of, looking back, resemble what we do on a day-to-day basis. I don't think often that we really realize, or maybe people listening to this, maybe you do. I mean, personally, I didn't, but it's only as I've sort of got older and reflected back on certain things that there's a lot of things we do on our day-to-day that we can and probably do apply into our everyday lives. And you can also do it the other way. So, things that having that growth mindset in your own personal life, you can take that growth mindset, into your everyday life at work, and really test yourself, challenge yourself, challenge your team. How can we get better? Try new things, adapt, ultimately there to deliver that end product to that end customer, whoever they may be. And will we get it right first time? No, we won't get it right first time. But the sooner you can get feedback on something, for me, it was I could get feedback in the gym, or, from other people around me, other people that have done it before. So it wasn't waiting until I got on stage. It was, or any opportunity I could get some feedback on how I was looking, or, any advice that somebody could give me was really valuable. Because again, there was time limitations when you're trying to get ready to compete. So I think, again, looking at what we do, I think we should always try and push ourselves and test ourselves. It's what we do, right? We're great at what we do. We're, everybody out there that's listening to this, and people that aren't, right? We're in this industry, we've been in this industry for a long, long time. We've got the experience of, how to deliver, high quality products, through testing and, ways of working and collaboration, etc., etc. And I sometimes wonder if we just need to reflect a little bit more and say, well, we need to push ourselves more. We need to challenge ourselves more. We need to test ourselves and put ourselves through that. All to deliver that end product, and continuously improve on that. How did I get on? So in my first competition, I didn't do very well, as I mentioned. In my second competition, I came third, and I qualified for the beginners UK finals, British finals, which was an amazing experience. And there I came seventh. So again, as you kind of, take it to that next level and you want to keep improving, the competition gets greater, right? And, that's again, what the judges look for, the customer, that changes. We shouldn't always stand still and think, just because I came third in this competition and qualified, that I can't get better. And I did get better, but I didn't get better enough to then make the top 6 or even get in the top 3. So again, coming back to what we were talking about last episode, where we need to really understand our customer. We need to understand the product as well, and how those two connect, but also how we incrementally improve, on that product, but not just the product, but how we work, how we test, how we develop, how we collaborate, try different things, try different techniques, try different ways of doing those things. Don't think that because somebody's telling you that automation is the next big thing, that you have to do it, right? It will help you, but often a combination of a number of different things will give you the best results, and you have to figure out what they are. I've been in the industry for 26 years, and I can tell you now that every single company, every single team that I've worked in has been different. Big shock, right? But also how we've worked. There's nuances in how we've worked. There's nuances in the tools that we've used. There's nuances in how we've used those tools. Sometimes we've had more standardization. Sometimes we've had more flexibility. Now, standardization is good, but if you have too much of it, you lose agility. You lose that sort of creativity, in my mind. So you've got to find that balance. If you don't have any standardization, sometimes you can create chaos. So, again, coming back to my world, when I was doing the bodybuilding, I had to have some structure there. I had to have some standardization. So my training plan throughout the week was, on these days I would do this and and etc. As I got closer, or as I changed to then go into the prep to compete, that changed, and continuously changed, to the point that I was training 7 days a week, 3 times a day, towards like the last 2 or 3 weeks, whereas it might have been 4 times a week, once a day, earlier on. So again, you have to adapt to the situation, to deliver that to deliver that product that you're aiming to deliver, and deliver it in the way that the customer ultimately approves of it and finds value in it. So, I urge you all to just kind of look at your own day to day, look and reflect on some of the stuff that I've been talking about around those things, and see what resonates. What are the sort of things that you do on a day to day basis that you think, what, actually I could just do this at work, and why don't I do that, and vice versa. Why don't you take some of those things that you do at work and actually apply them to something you're doing outside of work? So if you're training for, an event, whether that be, a marathon, or, if you look at the Olympics that's on now, I mean, I can only imagine the amount of training and different styles of training and, everything that all those individuals have had to go through just to be there, just to get to that point, before they even put the end product out there to compete. It's incredible. But at no point, is it going to be easy when you look at it. And it's the same thing as to what we do on a day-to-day basis, right? It's not cookie cutter. We're always having to adapt. We're always having to look at how can we evolve and stay ahead of the game, and find things that will ultimately help us be better at what we do. It could be one thing, it could be a combination of things, but don't do it on your own. Always, even if you feel as though you're better off doing something on your own, okay, but seek feedback, right? Look for feedback on things, and just look at how you can continuously improve. But more importantly, just test yourself. Put yourself in those situations where you're testing yourself, and your team put themselves in their situation where they're testing themselves, trying new things, May it work, may not work. But if you don't try, you'll never know. So, we don't necessarily need things to be gold plated before we can get feedback. So just think about that. We don't need things to be gold plated before we can put them into the customer hands, before you can get feedback. Now, coming back to the bodybuilding, often people would compete in a number of competitions throughout the year to just keep improving, keep getting feedback from those judges until the point that they ended up into that the final or whatever the competition that they wanted to be, and progress further and further. That's how the professionals, do those things over the years. And I don't just mean bodybuilding; I mean professional sports people out there. So yeah, just have a think about it. Really, I mean, obviously, as I say, this episode was very much off the cuff. So you might listen to this and go, do you know what? Stu's talking out of his arse. But it's just me just sharing my thoughts and how they kind of tie up. And I genuinely think there's something there. I genuinely think that there's a lot of sort of things that we can do, in both directions. So just have a think about it. Have a think about how you can apply that mindset, that growth mindset in those different ways. And often what I find helps as well is bring, especially when you're obviously doing it, you're going back the other way into your day job. Try and contextualize it for people by bringing real world examples, similar to what I've just done here today with all of you. Because I think that really helps. I think it kind of just brings it round to sort of connecting with people. And I hope that's what I've done today. I hope I've connected with you all and got you thinking differently, or not even differently, just got you thinking, right? And yeah, I mean, that's really it. I'm missing Chris. I am missing Chris. I'm missing my Geordie. I'm missing my big Geordie friend. I don't have anybody like around to talk to me. And I know you're thinking, oh, I know, Stu's all on his own, but he'll be back next episode. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Okay. Please do keep subscribing. We've got 300 plus followers on LinkedIn. If every single one of you could subscribe to YouTube, that would be amazing. So yeah, so subscribe, like, comment, share. Again, those strangers in the streets, they'll all be happy if you share and say that there's this podcast going around. Yeah, just keep listening, please. Keep feeding back. We can't thank you enough. Oh, and did I mention maybe my liking of coming up and getting up onto a stage? When I did it for bodybuilding, I had to wear these really, really small pants. So if I can do that, then obviously I shouldn't have any trouble getting up on stage to do public speaking, should I? But again, it's different. It's completely different. Everybody was up on the stage in small pants. Why would I worry? So anyway, I'll leave you with that. Not that thought, because hopefully you'll wipe that from your memories pretty quick. But yeah, just let us know what you think. Leave comments, share, subscribe, and next episode 4 we'll have Chris back. We'll be talking about the title of the episode will be testing 213, which is what this episode was going to be, but we will be hitting that episode next time. So whatever you're doing with yourselves, whether you're going on your holidays, whether you're on your holidays, whether you're at work, just have an amazing time. Whatever you're doing, look after yourselves, and until next time, be good. And if you can't be good, have fun. See you later. Bye.